This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Havilah Malone for the first time. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I love podcasting here from Concord, New Hampshire. That's where I live in the world.
Okay.
And we
Good.
love to have live interviews. This is our first live interview with you.
I love it. Well, hey, I'm here joining you live from Los Angeles.
Oh, that's cool. And I want to let people know I've got a QR code to the Spotify link that might be a little too complicated to do anything with that right now. But to let people know that will be clickable after the episode is done. But if you wanted to check out the album that we're referring to here, you can scan with your smartphone or your tablet, and this QR code will bring you right there, so you can check that out while we're talking, or check it out later. But I want to thank you for being here. We always ask the guest a couple of questions before they get to the heart of your story.
Yeah.
First question is, what motivates you?
Growth. I love being able to grow and expand, especially when it comes to like my consciousness or my human potential and ability. So things that allow me to stretch and express myself and grow, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of times there's a lot of people that are like in the box. Because I mean, I have a couple of hats. It's like in my day job, I'm a software developer, and I get to work from home. And for many years, I was in the cubicle, but I decided in order to be able to do this art career, I could do this remotely. And so everything I do now is from my home, and I'm able to kind of do my gig work and my real job and really satisfy my soul, instead of saying, oh, maybe one day I'll do that when I retire.
I used to work in corporate America for nearly a decade, and even though it was an amazing company and job and gave me, really wonderful opportunities to do things and learn and grow, but it got to a point where I was feeling like I was inside of a box, and it was like, you have gotten everything that you needed from this journey, and it's time to move on so that you can continue to develop your skill set, develop your voice, as we were talking about earlier. And because my family, everybody was like, you better not leave that good job. And so, and so sometimes we will get stuck within our own boxes just out of comfort, even in discomfort. And it wasn't until a massive layoff that our entire division got laid off. And that was the biggest blessing in disguise, because that's where I got to like take off and fly.
Yeah, a lot of times, sometimes things happen to you. We call them happy accidents in music. Like a lot of times you have a planned journey, and then something unplanned happens. And really the layoff. Like you said, like, I've been a consultant for many years, and I had my father. He was in the same job for like 25 years, and like the world that like his kids went into is not the same way. All my brothers, we've kind of lived in a world where like that's not what happens anymore. So the loyalty that the company used to have to it is like non-existent.
Yeah, and my mom was a flight attendant for 45 years. I mean, like literally flying the friendly skies for 45 years, and you don't hear about that type of like consistency within a company, in which there's the ups and downs to that as well, because that gives you an opportunity to try different things or have a variety of different experiences and not be, in one particular place, where some people feel like, well, but then that doesn't give me the stability that I'm looking for. So you really have the opportunity nowadays to carve out your own lane, and entrepreneurship is a really amazing way to do that. And artistry is a really amazing way to do that.
Yeah, and kind of segueing back into art, like you're a known 4-time best-selling author. You're an award-winning actress, spoken word artist, executive producer. Your work's been on Fox, NBC, ABC, CBS, publications like Huffington Post. And so, like in the space within the arts, like you said, you had been in the corporate world. Was it a hard transition to do that, or were you kind of threading the needle and doing both before you transitioned all the way?
Absolutely. You know what? You would think I was Jamaican because I've always had multiple jobs at once or multiple pursuits at once. Because that's just the way my brain and curiosity and desire works. Is that like, okay, my interest is over here. I want to, dabble in quantum physics. Okay, I'm gonna go dabble in that. If I want to go dabble in artistry, and so I was working for Hewlett Packard when I was in corporate America, and they even found out about my previous television background. So I became their spokesperson on like the Home Shopping Network and QVC. And so I used to sell their products on air in addition to running $160 million technology division of their company. And so I was always having my hands still in the world of art and expression in some way, shape, or form. But it wasn't until I made the decision and through the help of that layoff to be able to fully pursue it and fully give my time and dedication to growing my artistry in a variety of platforms, from, writing books, from being in film and television, from being on stages and speaking. I consider it all the same thing. I feel like I'm just a highly effective communicator across multiple platforms, and I just communicate in different ways.
Well, I think it's real important to know, like what you want to do with your life to be able to self actualize. Because a lot of times, I've talked to people who are like, doctors, and they spent their whole career getting to that point, and then they found out it's like, oh, I actually wanted to be an author. I wanted to be an artist, but I was on this. I went and got the credentials. I got the skill set. I've been doing it, but then they found out during the COVID time. It's like, oh, this is not really what I want. And so to actually go to what you want is a lot of times people say, oh, that's irresponsible because you have like, oh, that's like you're being childlike, you're being, it's like, but I think like, as an artist, like the one thing keeps artists alive is our childlike curiosity. We don't let that go. We continue to have it.
It's necessary. I mean, that is one of the biggest gifts that we have is our curiosity, because that allows us to keep an open mind. What we have been taught about reality and existence and our potentiality is a scratch of the surface of what we are actually capable of. So it takes the journey of discovery, of unfolding, of being curious, and I wonder what that is. Well, let me try that. Ooh, let me see how that feels. Let me go and, dabble in that a little bit. And then that gives us clarity on, hey, I like this and I want more of it, or I'm not really feeling that and I'm gonna just go ahead and leave that alone. But we won't know that until we give ourselves the opportunity to explore. And some people, for them, it's acting, and they really want to, try their hand at that. And you may find that, okay, between, taking classes and learning the skill of acting and being on a set for 12 to 16 hours on, okay, I don't really want to do that, or you may find, I love it and allows me to like step into a new aspect of myself that I get to unfold out in this character on television. So, but you'll never know until you give yourself the opportunity. And we come into families, we come into systems that have already been created for us. So you have expectations of what your life should look like, what box you should fit in. So until we do the self-work to break out of that and go for what we really want, you'll never know what your life could be.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the safety. And it's really not safety because, like, we all, the reason human beings, like, they were inside the gated, like, community, they were inside the walls of the fort, inside that village, right? Because there's a wolf at the door, or there's a tiger at the door, or whatever's outside that gate of that human community. And now it's become the kind of virtual wolf at the door. Like the virtual wolf at the door, because you're totally unsatisfied in your toxic workplace or your toxic marriage or your toxic relationship or your toxic neighborhood, but it's what you know. You don't know anything outside that zone, and outside the zone is just as scary as the wolf.
The unknown. It's the fear of the unknown. And the thing is that everything that we want is on the other side of the unknown. It's like you can't have something that you don't take that step over that threshold of unknown to actually discover and receive it. important that there's so many people who have gone before us that have done the things that we want to do. Like people who are maybe tuning into this episode right now, you're getting to hear the story of the journey of someone who may be doing something that you desire to do. Listen to people's stories, listen to their journeys, read books, educate yourself, because you can open your mind to the world that is potentially available to you just through other people's journeys and say, okay, if they were able to do it, so can I.
You know, that's like the mentor type of relationship, or actually to hear, you know, the advocacy, or being when people are advocates for other people or their teachers, like as a musician. Like if you're a producer, you're kind of teaching another musician what to do, right? You're giving them the kind of benefit of your experience and paying it forward. And what I've always told people is like, don't try to sound like me. Don't try to sound like other people, right? I want to hear the song you're scared to show anybody. Because what you're scared to show anybody is what I want to work on. Because I think that is the song that is you. And the thing, if we can work on you, right? The thing that nobody's what your secret sauce is you. What's inside of you is the thing that nobody else has. Everybody else has that cat video. Everybody else has that sample they've been using over and over, that plugin they keep on using over and over. That's already been heard. What we want to hear is what we call the newfound sound, or that happy accident. That's what's real to me.
It's like the adage, know thyself, is so important, because we do, like, it's easy for us because we've been programmed to follow the leader, follow authority, do the cookie cutter thing that we've been taught how to do and replicate. Because when you go through school, it's a system to have you go into a workforce so that you are like a cog in a wheel, not a creator, but you're a worker.
Assembly line.
Exactly. It literally is an assembly line making system. And so you're not being nurtured with that. Wait, discover who you are, discover your uniqueness, discover your voice, and let that come through and figure out what you're supposed to create in this life, because you have purpose of being here. You chose to come here for a reason. And it wasn't to replicate everybody else's stuff. It was to bring your unique, like, sauce, like you said. And so even for me, my journey has been that of unfolding, of learning to trust myself, and then learning to allow what was the deep thoughts that were there, the secret thoughts that were there, allowing myself and giving myself permission to express that and put that out into the world. And I found that the more and more that I did that, oh my God, that's what people responded to. That's what made, yes, like that's what made me feel full and fulfilled and expressed in the world. It wasn't when I was copycatting somebody else's motivational whatever. It was no, it will flow through me and come out of this vessel. That's what I am here for.
I was listening to your Spotify and that link we have here for the you know, the image that you can scan.
The QR
what I like about it is the spoken word. Spoken word to me is like poetry. You know, poetry is where I started as a creative. I was always into the Harlem Renaissance. I like William Blake. I like the Victorian poets, and I always thought there was like a link between poetry and music. And like jazz. I was listening to Coltrane. Like, you know, if you listen to a Love Supreme, that's like spoken word and poetry. It's all jazz. It's all the same thing. You know, even Sun Ra used to do things like that. But spoken word in poetry is just such a real connection. And you can relay that feeling. It's not like film where you have to build all this artifice, or even like music where you have to build all this stuff. With the spoken word, you can go on stage at a coffee shop, at a poetry jam, and you can just get out there and say, make the, you know, you can present yourself.
Yeah.
And you just gotta have the guts to get out there and do it.
That part. Look, to know that the message that came through you is worthy, that is worthy of being expressed into the world, that it has merit and has value simply because it came through you, and that our thoughts, our journeys, our, expressions, that there's a place for them. And so for me, like, I started writing poetry when I was in middle school, and I didn't even consider it writing. I didn't consider it poetry. It was just the way that I was able to put what was going on inside of me.
Process things.
Yeah, exactly. It was my way to process the world and like what was happening in my life, and a way to get it out, because a lot of times people have a lot that's in them and it gets stuck in their body. It gets stuck in their
It
emotional.
makes you sick. It can hurt you.
Ooh, that part. Because if that does not have it's like a faucet. If you don't turn a faucet that needs to like have an outlet out into the world outside of you, then it all just gets clogged in there, and you wonder why you're overwhelmed. You wonder why you're frustrated. You wonder why, things just feel heavy. It's because you've got so much in you that needs an outlet. And for me, that was putting those words onto paper. And I didn't like, even my first book, I didn't publish until 2013. And even after publishing my first book or having my first book published, I still didn't even consider myself an author. Like the connection to that identity was just like non-existent. And it wasn't until like almost years later that I was like, wait, yeah, I am an author. And even after this poetry, this album has come out, it took a while before I could like take the identity or hold that identity of, you're a poet.
Like imposter syndrome. You didn't feel like you. A lot of times people have that imposter syndrome where they don't really feel they belong in that role. So then they don't fully like actualize, because they don't fully believe in themselves. Right. So if you're kind of,
it was like
half
something
believing
about
yourself,
the title or that word association that just still wasn't like sticking into my own consciousness. And it was just like, wait. But the evidence that is here, that has been here your entire life, is showing you that this is a part of your artistry. This is a part of your expression. Now, at the end of the day, what am I really? I am a spiritual being having a human experience. That's what I am. These are things that I do. I do poetry, I do acting, I do producing, so even the I am statement is a very powerful statement, because that is taking on an identity, that is taking on an energy. And even beyond those things, my spirit, what I really am, is even more encapsulating than that. So those things can't even contain what it is that is here. And so I think that was more so the conflict for me with like the label itself. But yeah, it was the label, but the work was there. The evidence of it was there. Yes.
It's like the law of attraction. Like a lot of times, like I'm a synthesist. So I deal with synthesizers. I deal with sound design. I take a lot of like waveforms and turn them into my own sounds. I call it newfound sounds. But the idea is like law of attraction, because I'm a Buddhist, but the law of attraction, you put some frequencies out there, and like frequencies will kind of gravitate. So if you put out something that's kind of negative, or something that's like we call dissonant, like a dissonant or distortion or discordant, then you talk about like maybe like a grunge or a punk show where everybody's in a mosh pit, very discordant, but there's like-minded people, they're in that kind of chaos. But if you have something that's more harmonious, everybody's taking out the lighter, everybody's like waving their hands, they kind of feel that. And you can kind of, with your voice and with music, as a speaker, you can start to understand that your frequency modulation, how you control your voice, can attract or detract.
It's so powerful. I literally during COVID, because after the first 4 months of being inside, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go outside. Like these four walls like driving me insane. And so I was like, okay, well, while everybody's in, nobody's outside, so I'm gonna go outside. So I literally took a 3-month cross-country road trip. like
Mm.
across the US, and went to all these exterior, like the Carlsbad Caverns in Carlsbad, New Mexico, went to like Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, like just went out into nature and commune with nature. And as I was on my way back, I went through Albuquerque, New Mexico, and there are very strong spiritual vortexes in Albuquerque. And I
Mm.
remember driving through, and then all of a sudden, all these downloads started coming, all this information started coming through. And I'm just like, whoa. And so I was like, okay, I can't write this down because like I'm driving. And so I pull out my phone and I just start recording. And even this like Icaros, which is like a healing chant, like came through. And so I just recorded everything on my phone. And I remember listening back to that recording, and for the first time in my life, experiencing myself. And I was like, oh my God. Like other people have told me like the power that they have heard in my voice, or like it felt soothing or healing for them. And I'm just like, okay, that's great. I'm like, thank you. Like I really appreciate that. But from a knowing or understanding of just somebody else's experience, I was able to experience it myself for the
Yourself,
first
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
And I
first
was
time.
like, there healing power in my voice. And now I know it. And now I know I have to do something with it. I
Was
know I have to do something with it.
was like that. They have this like pivotal moment that happens like in your life. Sometimes like these crucible moments happen where you finally like you get it. Like sometimes like we're kind of missing the even within ourselves. Like a lot of times we as artists we get downloads, and the downloads are coming from internal, subconscious, and from the outside world. And artists are able to very much pick up. We're very
Those
good observers.
frequencies. Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of times what we forget is, like writers know it, that they're pulling a lot of things from their subconscious. And
Mm-hmm.
even though they're talking about the muse and it sounds external, there's a lot of stuff that's internal.
Yeah.
So it's artists are able to weave both. It's a synthesis of the internal and the external. And it's like it's kind of like hard to pin down what any one moment it could be one or the more a little bit more of the other or the next thing you don't know. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea that you can have that download and then looking glass self analysis, like hear yourself, because like the key to every really great artist is like knowing yourself. Like when you know who you are, then you can start to map out how you're going to create the other characters or very versions of yourself. But once you really know that looking glass self, like the Victorians talked about,
Mm-hmm.
then you got it.
You're so right, because I was looking at, because of course I have my hands in quite a few different things, and I was like, okay, so you're speaking on stages, this is like one piece over here. You're in the entertainment industry, that's one piece over here. You love music, that's one piece over here. And I would keep asking the universe, myself, like, what's the intersection of all these things? Where do they all come together? Because they still keep feeling like all these separate pieces. And I remember I was sitting in my room one day, I'm sitting on the bed, and I get this like light bulb moment where it just all flooded in, and the concept of the spoken word album came to me. And it was like, you get to marry the healing power of your voice, these messages that continue to be downloaded to you and through you, and the healing power and frequency of music. You get to bring all of this stuff together into a form that can be shared with the world. And I remember receiving that vision and like sitting on the edge of my bed and weeping, because it was just like, oh my God, like it all makes sense. My life makes sense. Like now all of these experiences and things that I've gone and learned and done, it's all coming together now, and it all makes sense. And I'm like, this is the fulfillment of my purpose here on this planet. And it was a life-shifting moment for me.
Yeah, when you can put together like the synthesis of like when like a filmmaker, they have all the they have the film, they have the sound, they have the video. But when you're a musician or you're a vocal artist, and you can put together like the different layers of the poetry, the sound, the music, like if it's your vision and you're trying to communicate, then you can actually tell a story. because like how you communicate, like every orator, the oral tradition of human history is before we put it down on the page. You had oral histories that were that given to people. I'm a part Native American, like
I
Cherokee,
love
Blackfoot. There's
it.
all these oral histories. They were brought down. They're the tribal elders. They bring these stories to. And eventually
Mhm.
they started getting written down, but it was, every culture has it. But
Everyone.
and when you start to realize that I can actually create one of those stories, and I can create like a statement through sound, and I think it's hard for people to maybe get the permission structure to
Mm.
like a lot of people look at as, well, I don't play as good as Stevie Wonder, and I don't sound as good as Aretha Franklin. So they say, well, I don't have a right to be in this space.
Oh.
So a lot of times people won't even get into the space because they think the access to it, they're their own gatekeeper.
Mhm.
You know?
I said Napoleon Hill said something. The author of Think and Grow Rich was one of the top 10 selling books of all time. He said, "Start where you stand with the tools you have at hand, and as you go along, better tools will be provided." We always look at the end journey or even the middle journey of somebody who's already done the thing that we are interested in doing. And then we see that and like, well, I can't start there. So that means I shouldn't start. They didn't start there either.
Everybody start the 10,000 hours, like when little Stevie Wonder was just learning ivory.
Yeah.
Like anytime there's a musician, there's a point where their parents didn't want to hear.
Right.
Nobody wanted to hear, right? It's like you didn't get to hear that. You didn't get to see that. What you see is when they did the 20,000 hours, and you'd see, and you didn't see all the demos. You didn't see all the false starts. You didn't see all the work. I mean, Hendrix was playing behind Little Richard and the Isley Brothers in 63, 64, 65.
Mhm.
He went to England in 66 and then suddenly came back in 67. Nobody saw all the work. I mean, Little Richard saw him doing the work, but but people didn't see the work, right? And they suddenly say he's an overnight sensation. It's like nobody's an overnight
Oh my
sensation.
God, right. No one is an overnight, other than maybe an AI artist. Look, no one is an overnight success. Like that is cultivation of life experience, of putting in work, of learning yourself, of figuring out your space and place in whatever the industry, which is why it's whatever the best time to start is today.
Yep.
Today, even if it's just one step that you take, whether that's like writing down that idea that's in your head because there's something that's there that's been brewing that you like keep mulling and swirling around in your thought process, but going ahead and putting that down onto paper because that is the first form of physical manifestation, is getting it out of the thought form onto a piece of paper. So
Yeah.
even that, or calling someone who you trust and sharing your idea with that individual, getting it outside of you
Yourself.
is,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Like we just have to start. And even with the album, once I was given the vision of what it was I was supposed to do. So I was given my assignment. And then it was like, okay, well, now how am I supposed to make this? How am I supposed to do this? Because I had never, done
Put it
a
together.
spoken word
Yeah.
album before. I like even the music world, and like that's not the world that I came from. I came from the film and television world. And so I was like, now I have to learn a whole new industry to
Yeah.
understand
Whole new
this.
you have to learn about what if you're gonna do it yourself, you learn about a DAW, you learn about music production, what kind of mics to use,
Right.
how to
I have to find composers now to create the musical landscape for these written pieces. I have to find a recording engineer to be able to actually get into a studio and record the spoken word aspects of it. Like, how do you even put an album out there? Like the whole world. But it was like,
it's
wait,
a whole learning experience.
literally, but it's like you start with one step, and that will build, that momentum will build because you're sending out a signal to the universe, and the universe is like, oh, that's what you want. Okay, cool, hold up. Let me
So
start.
when you started, the journey started to illuminate, the people to start showing up, or
Yes.
because you were putting out, like if you had been in film, well, in the film industry, there's a lot of people there in the sound engineers. So were there people in film that kind of pointed you? to the people you could talk to, or you had to go find a whole
it was
new
so
group?
amazing. The very first track that we recorded that came to fruition was the last track on the album called Beneath the Waters Beyond the Stars. And I had gone down to New Orleans. I was visiting for I think I was there for like a book signing event or something, but I ended up spending some time with a good friend of mine, Stephanie Osborne, and her husband is a really famous painter, Terrence Osborne. And we were sitting in her kitchen, and then I shared with her the download that came of me like creating this album, and this is what I was supposed to do. And I had already recorded that piece, like just in my phone. Like I literally pulled out my phone and just recorded the spoken word piece of it. And so I let her hear that recording. And after she heard the recording, she was like, oh my goodness. She was like, hold on. She gets on the phone and she calls someone. They have a brief conversation. And she was like, okay. She said, Havilah. And this is like 6:00 p.m. She was like, Havilah, can you get down to the studio by 7? And I was like, wait, what? She was like, there's a producer I want you to meet or whatever. Like, he needs to hear this. You guys need to connect or whatever. Like, and he is waiting for you. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, well, bye, I guess. So I leave from her. I go down to the studio. I meet Diesel, who is a Grammy-winning composer and producer. He's in the session with like other artists at that point. So I'm just sitting there, just like, oh my God, like this is my first time being in like this, situation, and just like seeing this process unfold. And because like on the film and TV side, it's a little bit different beast than, in the music world side of it. And then once he was finished with that session, he and I sat down, we talked, we really connected. He got a chance to hear it. And he was like, I believe in this. I want to work with you. He's like, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. I was like, but I leave in like 2 days. Like I'm going back to LA. And he was like, all right, because this was a Saturday and I was leaving Monday. He said, all right, come back tomorrow, come back Sunday, and we're going to do it.
Wow. You just put it down. When you get like-minded people, it's like when you bring a band together. Like a lot of times, like it's very organic. Sometimes when you meet other musicians, you can meet them like you never met before, and then you click. And right then you can kind of boom. In the music, I don't know. I found it in music that it happens like that sometimes, a lot of times. Like you run into somebody, you say, hey, we could do something, and boom, you start collaborating. And one time I met somebody on the podcast, they were a musician, then we synced, and then like 2 days later we were recording a song together, like through the net. We were like sending each other files, and I sent this part, and we just clicked. And sometimes there's just this synchronicity and this connection
and
with
that
people.
has happened with so it's 9 tracks on this album. I've worked with 6 different composers to create these tracks or create the musical landscape for these tracks. And it was a like magical connection with each and every one of them. It's like it says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the teacher is ready, the student will appear. When you are ready, the resources, the people, the things that are necessary for you to fulfill your goal, your purpose, they will just start to show up. And it seems like magic. It seems like the impossible, but that's just literally how the laws of the universe work. And so we just have to make the decision and start taking our steps, and then all comes together. So I go into the studio that Sunday around 7-ish. I don't think we actually started working until maybe 9, but we worked from 9 until like maybe 1-2 o'clock in the morning the next day, and literally left with one of the tracks completed. And I was just like, oh my God, it's real now. It's real now. And now I have to keep going. Now.
Well, it's like if you're willing to put, it's like my grandpa's a coal miner. He said, well, if you put the work in, things will happen. Like he just respected work. So, and he played banjo and he was a coal miner, but he had this idea, like if you sit down on your banjo and you actually work at it, you can write the song. But if you sit there and you don't actually work at it, nothing's going to happen. So if you sit there playing the banjo, then somebody else might come in with a bass, and somebody else might come in with a song. It will just start to happen because you're actually putting the work in. And when the universe sees that you're putting the work in, then things like you said, the opportunities just become apparent and just show themselves.
For real. I would say, even speaking of like communities and being in like the film and television world community. So there's a couple groups that I am a part of over at the Astor in Hollywood, which is like a social club, but also like a boutique hotel. And there's like the Astor Film and TV meetup. There's an Astor's writers group. And now we have an AI, like a tech group that meets. But we were there for a meeting and we were about to leave. And I see this gentleman and a lady are walking towards the elevator, and he just turns back, and he and I like locked eyes, and then there was just something there, and so then we both like started coming towards each other, like they're literally about to get into the elevator and leave.
Turn around.
Turns around, and then we meet each other. So that ended up being Sunday, who was the composer of 2 of the tracks on my album of Who Am I, and he did the Cycle tracks 3 and 4, and oh my goodness gracious, not only we were both from New Orleans originally, I was like, hold up. So we like had this deep connection, from the South. And then it was just like the synergy that happened between the 2 of us. He was able to hear, because I had like recorded these pieces on my phone originally. So he got to hear one of the pieces, and he was just like, he already started, like the tune started playing to him in his head. So he was like, I want to work on this. Like I want to.
Like the musicians are really good at like when they hear something, like play by ear. Like if they hear something and it appeals to them, they can figure out like what will go with it. Like because I've always loved that kind of in the moment, because people sometimes will come to you with a composition, but I like it's like having a session with people and just play it and then figure out what goes. Like the drummer will figure out what goes with it, bass player will figure out, the sax player will figure, because a lot of times it's like if you try to dictate what it should be, you can do that. But I like to let people like, well, if you're a sax player, what goes with like what's gonna go, because that's like the bass. If I write for the bass player, like what I write is probably not gonna be as good as what they can come up with if they hear my piano part.
And it was beautiful because I had ideas, of like what I wanted the sounds to be, but one of the things he asked, he was like, how do you want people to feel, or how do you want it to feel? And I loved that question even more than like, oh, what do you hear, or what kind of sounds do you want in there? Because it really gave me an opportunity to tap in where my gifting is around like emotion and frequency and vibration and feeling, and then give that to him.
You're able to express what you want what the sound painting to represent. Because I always talk about like sound paintings, and a lot of times sounds represent colors, they represent moods.
It's not like synesthesia, right? Like where you can see
yeah, well, it's like the idea is like there's colors to sound, and when you can relay like a feeling, like if you want to, like I always felt like Karen Carpenter had melancholy in the tone of her voice, right? It's just like it's that the emotion's there. It's like blue. It's like this blue. It's there, and you feel it no matter. Even if she's singing a happy song, there's still this blue element to her tone, and it would just come through. And you could work with it, and it's. But if you give her the right composition, she's going to just kill it, because it's like she always brings that her emotional impact in her voice. And so, like if you have a voice and what your vision is, and you tell somebody like you set like the scene, like you're a screenwriter. You kind of set the scene. It's like, this is kind of what the scene should be. And then let the cinematographer and the other people kind of figure out, well, maybe you could go like this, maybe you could go like that. But at least they get an idea, right, of what you want. You have a vision.
For real. And I literally, and then we go into the studio, I record the vocals, of course, professionally. And then he just starts playing to it. And he finished, and we listened back to it, and I literally, I'm sitting on the floor, because like his studio is so comfortable. Oh my God. It just feels like home. And so I'm sitting on the floor, and then I just like, I'm just tears start just like streaming down my face, because it was so powerful how that music married with it and just brought it, just like it just lifted this piece up to a whole nother level. And you felt it, like you feel it, the who am I, you feel it in your spirit, like it is so deep. And it was just like, this is what I wanted to feel like. This is what
you found the right, like you've definitely, like, in the moment, like you found the right, like, pieces of the puzzle. Because a lot of times, like, things happen in life, and like Buddhists, we believe like you're kind of on this thing, it's supposed to happen. You meet these people because you were supposed to meet them, and
Yes,
they,
you're
that
on your
person,
human revolution. Look.
yeah, yeah, they know you're like, you're on that path, and you, like, you hit, now these people are with you on the path, and they know where you're going, and they know how to, like, to make your vision, complement it. Because, like, a lot of times people, like, you work on something, but there's a lot of people that actually bring out any project. There's like a team to it, or there's people around you. And so, like, even if you're a solo artist, like, you have your engineer, you have your producer, you have the writer, you have a lot of people behind the scene. But you might have the moniker, might just be your name. But
Yeah.
usually it's a team sport in creativity. There's usually a lot of people in the room or on the
I
team.
have such extraordinary collaborators who have worked with me on this album, from Becca Shack to Miss Chrissy J, Scotty Grand. I mean, Delicate, like the Gogo Lomo David, who was my recording engineer. We would dang near be having, like, when we would do the editing sessions of what was recorded, we would be like going to church. Like, we would literally be we would, because my ear got trained in this process. I can pick up frequencies now and hear things that I did not have the capacity to hear prior to, like, going through this process of creating an album, editing an album, putting it out there. And I mean, so much so that I have, like, dang near bat hearing at this point. And it was like things that I would at first be like, okay, no, it's fine. He would come back, Go would come back. He's like, no, I'm gonna need you to record that again. I'm gonna need you to do that again.
Yeah.
And it was just like the level of excellence, and it's like to have people who will push you, to be with people who you can also push. And because greatness is and excellence is the only option in what it is that you're doing, because you're putting out something that is truly meant to change people's lives. Like, that's what I was blessed with in this process. Like, I feel like I came out with so many lessons learned and so much of a community and family now of this thing that we birthed together. And yeah, my name may be on that album, but I stand on the shoulders of giants to be able to be there.
Well, the whole process is very, I love about music, it's very cathartic, and every project is a learning experience. Like, every time you go through a project, when you're really dedicated to, like, the music or the voice or what you're trying to give a new vision to the world, you push yourself. Like, unless you're just, some people might be, and we're not one of these people, but some people could, like, phone it in. Like, if they get to the point where it is, oh, it's just gonna keep on using the same formula. But when you're trying to do something innovative, and you're doing something heartfelt, you're doing something that's passion, like a passion project, then you're gonna push yourself. And the people around you will push you, and you push them. And so that's where you start to get this exceptionalism in the art, of that, in that space. It's like, it's a place for people who want to push boundaries, they want to have impact, that believe in what they're doing, because you believe it's going to impact other human beings.
Yes. I knew that this was a part of my assignment for the fulfillment of my life purpose, that to be able to put these messages in a form that I could share with the world, like, that was the opus that I could leave behind and know that my life was fulfilled. So if I get another day beyond this day, fantastic. That's a gift. If I don't, like, I did what I came here to do. I left what I came here to leave behind, and everything else is a cherry on top. It's another opportunity for something else to, some growth, because of that is a motivator for me, is growth. So there's more opportunity for growth, but at the core of it, what I came into this life to do, I have now done.
Do you feel that this is like the pinnacle of what you would do in this format, or do you think you'd want to try it again and do some other spoken word album to continue it?
Right now the goal in with this particular album is the expansion of this world. So being able to now take each of these tracks, which we've done with one of the tracks already, I'm in Love, the first track on the album, and we've created a short film that is now going around the world on film festival circuits. It has won awards in Greece and France, and we're going to Barcelona. We will actually have we're part of the Micho Film Festival, so we'll have a screening October 24th here in Los Angeles, and we won a Filmic Brilliance Award for the film. And so I saw taking this format of this audio version, these spoken word tracks that were available in that form, and then being able to create new spaces for them and new avenues of expression for them, so that people can receive it in the way that it would best resonate with them. Like for the exactly, like for the long form track on the album, which is track 8 of the Divine Manifesto, because that comes from my book, Rewriting a New History, A Spiritual Path to Audacious Authenticity and Healing. That writing is in that book, and it has artwork associated with it. So I see creating an immersive museum exhibit around that piece, and having that immersive audio in there along with the imagery, and like in an immersive experience. So like I just see this world continuing to grow in the way that people can experience it.
This multimedia is real important because like you could have like a virtual gallery, you could do holographic stuff with it in the future, because that technology's coming. But the idea of being able to do something with film, and because I've talked to artists who have like a book, and in the book they have songs that they have go with each chapter, and then in the book they actually have either a CD or a download or a USB. And so the idea that you can merge like your written work with your audio work with some film work, you could even put it into a video game space, and have open worlds, and like there's so many different things that you can do with tech today in terms of art. My daughter is actually a graphic artist, and she does virtual galleries for disabled artists. They have these virtual galleries, and she has this project called Art in Mind, and they support marginalized communities and artists. They have to create these virtual gallery shows for him. And
I literally got chills. Like I literally got, okay, I need to connect with your daughter. Hold up. What?
She's into that. So yeah, she just finished a whole project. She does like Art in Mind. She did Art in Mind 2025, and she's going to do another one in 2028. But yeah, I just think it's real important to have as many spaces for art as possible, and like go beyond people's imaginations and see where you could go. It seems like you're already doing it.
Exactly, like we plan on doing so like the film that we did, which this is actually a notebook that has the cover of the film. This is the poster for the film. I'm in Love, which is from that track. So we plan on doing a film for each of the tracks on the album. So it literally, again, just building out this entire world of the ways that people can experience these empowering messages, from cinematic ways to auditory, ways to immersive ways. And so I see that as the expansion. And then of course, if more, because I do have other writings and poetry and things like that. So the next album that will come, and then again, expanding it into those worlds is what I
have a base in a poetry book or a novel or a short story, and
it's literally
a film. And then,
the Disney world of poetry. Yeah.
Well, I think it's really because so many people, they get things from video today. And you have a whole generation, they get audiobooks. They get their books from audiobooks, right? They because their attention span, sometimes they won't stay on the text. Like they have to have it in audio because they're traveling, they're on the train, they're on the plane, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
if you can get people to get pulled in, then get them to, oh, maybe they'll go read the book. They'll go read the poem and then
Yes.
listen to the work behind it too. You just get people to kind of push their comfort zone and say, hey, maybe I should read more. Maybe I should listen more. Maybe I should watch this. Maybe I should check this out. And so I think because we get so many things that people just reworking old movies. People just
Mm-hmm.
watching Netflix all day, and like they want something new. They want something that feels like authentic. They want something that's not the same story with a different cast.
Look, we live in a world of like the repetition of the IP, in which, hey, I get it, I understand it, but also we have the ability to create our own IP and then build, from
Yeah,
that as well. So, and that's what a lot of people are seeking, is originality and authenticity
yeah.
and something fresh and new. And so we have it available for them.
Well, I think it brings hope to people because a lot of people, if you get caught up in what's going on in the world today, you can feel like you don't have hope. But having healing and hope through film and sound, I think is the trip to be on. Is the journey to go forward. Because that's why I talk to artists like yourself, because I think art is the salvation of humanity. And the reason
Mm.
I talk to people and I have this space is because even though there's all these dark things going on in the world around us,
Mm-hmm.
art is always the light. Art is always going to show you a new reason to get up in the morning and say, yes, humanity still has a spark and I'm into it.
Yeah, it opens the window to possibility. We get a glimpse into what is real when we gaze through the eyes of art. And so that is one of the most powerful tools that we have, is tapping into our imagination and letting our creativity come out of us through whatever form or medium we feel called to. And that's why we respond to it, and it's in each and every one of us. So especially for people who are feeling like I have a book in me, or I have a song in me, or I have something in me, allow it to be birthed, because we need it.
I think that's real important. And I'll close on that today and just reiterate we do have your QR code link to that Spotify album.
Yay.
You
And this
just take your
album
phone
cover. Yes.
and you scan that, you'll go right to it. And we do encourage you to do that. And I hope that you check it out. If you don't want to use the QR code, you could click on the link. These links that are on the screen will be active. We are just live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. And we do encourage you to click that link or use your QR code on your phone to get to that and check out your Spotify album and support you. I guess on your website, you have other things too, like your links to your books.
Yes, all the books and all that stuff is available. And then make sure, because right now the voting is open for Grammy consideration, and we are in two categories: a spoken word poetry album, and best album cover. So proof of what's possible. Give us a listen, and consider us for a Grammy nomination.
Yes, definitely. We do appreciate you being on the Family Like the Ghost podcast. Like I said, we're just live on LinkedIn and YouTube and Kick. So thank you for being on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. This was amazing. And I definitely look forward to connecting with your daughter.
Thank you.